Hey everyone, it's Sean here, and I'm here with Alan Stevens, who is an international profiling and communications specialist. And Alan, thank you for joining us today. Really good to get some insights into your background and what drives you and that sort of thing. But maybe to get started, it'd be great to get an understanding of what is it that you love to do in relation to your role, and I guess what drives you to do that.
Well, what I do is all about helping people to build stronger relationships with everybody around them, whether in all areas of their life, whether that be with parents to understand their children so that their children grow up happier, and if it's with couples to build stronger relationships, and in business to increase profits and improve the business outlay.
Fantastic. So the commonality obviously is the helping people, and depending on what outcome they're looking for.
That's it, because we look at it, relationships are the foundation of everything we do. And if you get those right, it covers across all the different areas.
Fantastic. So what sort of impact have you seen what you do have on some of your clients and people that you've worked with in the past?
Well, if we look at parents, for instance, so children with Asperger's, autism, parents being able to connect with them, change the environment, and by the environment I mean by the way that they speak to the child, how others speak to them, and find that those children have actually come off medication. They've gone from the special needs into the regular part of the school. They've advanced a lot faster, connected with their parents. In couples, being able to build stronger relationships where they were falling apart before, or even find the right partner in the first place if they're looking for a new partner. And then into business, part I enjoy there is when it's one of the things we have at the moment, about 87% of people are disengaged in their work. That being the case, relationships are a major issue. We've got very poor leadership in general, because we're not taught to be leaders, we're taught to be managers. And because of that, we find that most people aren't happy. If they're not happy, they're not happy at home, their kids aren't happy. It just flows through every area of their life. Fantastic,
fantastic. So one thing I love to ask every one of our guests is, what's the worst piece of advice that you've ever received, and what was the consequence of maybe applying that piece of advice?
It was to, when I was originally with Telecom, left them after 23 years and started my own business and went into partnership with 3 other men. And it was a case of, build the business fast and everything else. Well, it was almost about, 18 months later, we were closing the doors and we're pretty much going to the wall, because we hadn't really established what we were doing. We rushed into it, we were gung-ho, and it just didn't work.
Done the same. Exactly.
Relationships were wrong.
Well, same thing. I actually went into business with 3 people, and it just within 2 years, none of those 3 people were there anymore. Because the relationships didn't work. We didn't know how to communicate and that sort of thing. And I think there was a massive lack of understanding in who was responsible for what. And there was a lot of ego and blame and things like that because of being early on in that journey. All of us were that we couldn't really see the shortcomings of ourselves more so. It was always about someone else's faults and things like that. So definitely seen that as well.
Yeah, well, we rushed in thinking that we were all experts in our field, but we didn't know what our field was. So, as you said, the egos come into it and everything goes awry from there.
Fantastic. So how would, or let me ask that question again, what's a situation where you've had an apparent failure and after the fact it actually turned out to be a really good thing, that when it looked like you took your kneecaps out from under it, when you stood back up again, we're actually in a better place?
Well, when I left that business and went into partnership with another gentleman, and when things went bad there, it fell apart, that's when I took a new direction and realised that I needed to start looking at relationships more effectively. And that started me on the path I am today.
Fantastic. Actually, very, very similar story to myself. Grew the business, quite substantially, and then the GFC came along and effectively kneecapped us, and it was a blessing in disguise, because what it actually got me to do was reassess, well, what am I doing? I don't actually love what I'm doing. If anything, I actually realised that I actually hated what I was doing. I was just doing it because my ego was driving me to do it, bigger, richer, more status or whatever. But whilst the business was growing, it was putting immense pressure on myself, my family personally, and things like that. And same thing as well. I then said, well, if I could do anything, what would I do? And then it was going down the path of actually getting to this and helping people and supporting people rather than selling a widget or something like that. So very, very similar story. I hear a lot of that with a lot of business owners I work with, the same sort of thing. It's like there's been a diversion from some core thing, and then from there, it actually turned out to be like the path they're meant to be on, or they feel really passionate about. So that's great. So what's one of the most worthwhile investments that you've ever made?
Well, I think it was self-education. People will be talking about, bought a property or whatever it might have been, but really the greatest investment we can ever make is one in ourselves. If I hadn't invested as much as I had into my own education, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I wouldn't be impacting in the lives that I am, and I wouldn't have that enjoyment of those people around me. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. Last 12 years for me as well, I finally realised that after my dad's adage that I was carrying with me, or his belief, which I know he was passing on to me to serve, because that's what he knew, which was, mate, if you want it done right, do it yourself, because it'll be cheaper and you'll do it better. And I understand that was said to help me, but about 12 years ago, I started to realise, well, actually, I'm not going to do it better. I said the types of things I'm trying to do, I can't learn it all. It's too complicated, it's too specialised and things like that. And it's when I really started to move away from that, started the same thing, to invest in myself. And in the last 12 years, if I could have doubled down to get twice the result, I would have done it, because it hands down has been the best investment I've ever made. Because we take ourselves everywhere, look at ourselves in the mirror every day, we interact with our loved ones and kids and families and everything every day. And if we can show up as a more authentic, stronger version of ourselves, then it really does make a positive impact. So that's great.
The only person you can be is yourself, and the thing is to find who that person is, and build the relationships with the people around you. And if you are yourself, the people you attract to you will be the right ones.
So in your business, day-to-day, busy activity, all that sort of stuff in life, if you get to a point where you feel unfocused, or maybe there's a bit much going, a bit overwhelmed, what strategies have you learnt in your career to support you in overcoming those sorts of things?
Well, one of the things is, if I'm doing different aspects of my work, I'll do it in different parts of the house for a starter. So it's like I've got up and I've moved away. But when the work starts to catch up, it's get out the front door, and just go for a wander. Go down and, because I love watching people, so I wander down to the local shops, go past the cafes, might just go and have a coffee, and there's always somebody will come along, and next thing you know, you're in a chat, and it breaks the cycle of what you're doing, because it helps you to recharge. If you don't take that break and you just keep pushing and pushing, you're just going to burn yourself out. I
find you get a diminishing return. So you might, I've got to keep working, I don't have half an hour to go for a walk and grab some lunch. But that half an hour, you're only working at 60% anyway. If you can go and recharge, you could bounce back up to 80 or 90, and then the rest of the day is far more productive. So absolutely. So
it's false economy. We think, if we put that extra hours in, we're going to be more effective. But if your performance has dropped, then you're not effective at all.
It's quality versus quantity
That's
in the end.
it.
But I think we have to all learn that. I used to do 10, 12 hours a day, every single day, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. And it was just about pushing harder, but it lacked this pushing smarter part, and really taking care of myself, and physically and mentally and stuff. I suffered a lot because I didn't nurture myself, and that's the other part of, I guess, investing in self. It's not just the knowledge and the skills. We actually need to invest in ourselves from a nurture perspective, and like I have a regular massage pretty much every 3 weeks for the last 15 years. I've been seeing someone in Sydney for 13 years straight. I just go turn up, and they just know me well enough to just know what parts of my back were always sore from being on a computer or whatever. But the same thing, it's diet, it's exercise, it's sleep, it's being consistent. Not about being perfect, but the more I've nurtured myself as well, I've noticed that has helped with performance dramatically. So great. And finally, just to close, if there was one key piece of advice that you would give to business owners that are in amongst it, they're struggling a bit, they're looking for something more, what piece of advice would you want to share with them?
Well, one of the sayings that really caught me was, what we do for ourselves dies with us, but what we do for others and for the world isn't always will be eternal. And that flowed on to understanding that with so many people disengaged in their work, if a business owner looks after their people, invests in them, and I don't mean spending money on them, but bringing them through, training them so that they can leave, but treat them in a way so they don't leave. The end result is those people are going to be loyal to their business, they're going to be productive, and yet they don't have to manage their staff because the staff will self-manage themselves and will grow and do their work even when the bosses are not there. And that's the idea of a boss, is somebody who can actually go away on holidays and know the company not only survives but also grows in their absence.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, really appreciate your time, Alan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So if you'd like to learn more about what Alan does and how he may be able to support you, we've included his details in the comments along with this video.